back to the cemetery. Be reading a short story I wrote. I hope you enjoy, like if you do, and leave a comment if you have a suggestion on the next story. Everyone knows that Valentine's Day is the day of love, but sometimes love can drive you crazy. Kelsey lived alone in her modest three-bedroom home. She had a good job, but not many friends. So she spent most of her days sitting at home in the evening painting. One sunny afternoon, when she got home from work, there was a package waiting for her at her door. The package was pink with a red ribbon wrapped around it, with a small card sitting on top. Since she didn't remember ordering anything, Kelsey approached the package suspiciously. She picked it up and noticed the small card on top. It said, "Your secret admirer." She looked around to see if anyone was around. She stood on the porch for a moment looking around. No one was there. She cautiously turned towards her door. She raised up her keys and moved them towards the lock. At that moment, a thump was heard against the side of the door. She jumped in surprise and slowly unlocked the door and turned the knob. She carefully opened the door inch by inch. When her door was opened enough, she peeked inside. She took a deep breath inward as her lab jumped into her arms. "Hey boy, you scared me," she said while petting behind his ears. "Come on, Bruno." She got her lab and the package inside, then she shut and locked the door. She walked through the living room and into the kitchen and placed the package on the counter. She grabbed a pair of scissors and cut open the package. She hesitantly opened the package. She slowly looked inside and saw pink tissue paper. She slowly reached in and grabbed it. "Ow!" she shouted. When she noticed blood dripping from her finger, she quickly moved her hand over the sink and turned the water on to wash the cut on her finger. After she doctored up her hand, she looked back into the package. She reached back in and pulled out a glass heart with a small crack in it. She admired it for a minute and then grabbed the box and went outside to throw them away. As she walked down her driveway, she stopped after noticing a strange car parked in front of her house on the side of the street. She stopped there for a moment as the car drove off. She then quickly dumped the heart and the box in her trash can and quickly walked back inside. She opened the curtains and peeked out of the window next to her front door for a few minutes, but quickly moved the curtain back in place when she noticed the car was passing again. She looked again and the car was gone. She composed herself and moved on with her night. In the morning, she woke up, got dressed, and went to work. When she got to her office building and walked inside, the receptionist stopped her and said, "Kelsey, I have a package for you." Kelsey grabbed the package from the receptionist and went to her office. She sat at her desk and cautiously opened the package. A small note was sitting on top of the tissue paper. She picked up the note and read it. It read, "I'm sorry the other one was broken. Please don't throw this one away." She got a little scared, realizing someone could be watching her. She slowly reached into the package and pulled out another glass heart. She inspected it. She turned it around and saw "See you soon" written on it. She let out a loud gasp before dropping it on the floor, shattering it. "Shoot," she muttered. She carefully cleaned it up and threw the broken glass in the trash. For the rest of the day, she couldn't get the words "see you soon" out of her head. When she finally left her office building, she walked to her car very quickly, checking all around her as she quickly got into her car. When she turned on her car and looked up, she saw a man standing in front of her car, staring at her with a big smile on his face. Her heart sank in her chest as she slowly locked her doors. She stared at the man while he stared back at her. The man slowly started to walk towards her driver's side door. Kelsey watched him intensely. As the man stood right by her door, he tapped on the window. Against her better judgment, she lowered her window a bit. Can I help you? Kelsey asked shyly. The man leaned forward and looked at her through the opening of her window and said, Happy Valentine's Day. I hope you liked the heart this time. The man replied, Oh, yeah, thank you. The man just stood there for a moment before asking, Would you like to be my Valentine? Kelsey, hesitant to respond, but said, I'm sorry, but this isn't a good time. Her rejection enraged the man, so she reached in and grabbed her by her hair and yelled, You will be my Valentine. No, let go, Kelsey yelled back while she fought to get out of his grip. After she got out of his grip, she quickly rammed her shifter into drive and sped off, running over the curb in front of her. She looked back at the man in her rearview mirror and saw him slowly waving. When she got home, it was almost dark. She pulled into her driveway and ran inside, locking her front door, and then went around her house, making sure every door and window was locked. She returned to her living room and sat on her couch, thinking about what to do. After a few minutes of sitting on her couch, she noticed something under her coffee table. She leaned forward and grabbed it and then slowly pulled it out. It was another pink package. She quickly let go of it. As the reality of the situation sank in, she let go of the package and sat back completely stunned by the fact that the man somehow got inside her home while she was away. As she pulled out her phone to call help, a loud knock was heard on the door. She quickly jumped to her feet and stared at the door. Another loud knock was heard, and she ran to her bedroom and sat down next to her bed against the wall. The knocking stopped, but she stayed where she was. After a few minutes, the street light casted a shadow of a man through her window. She brought her legs in against her chest as the man peeked in through her window. She sat as still as possible as tears started to form in her eyes. The man eventually moved on, and Kelsey took a small breath of relief. Unbeknownst to her, the man knew where her spare key was. As Kelsey stayed hidden by her bed, she heard the sliding back door open. Her heart began to race, and her breathing got heavier. Slow, heavy footsteps could be heard in her living room. Kelsey carefully peeked over her bed at the door and saw the man's shadow coming through her doorway. She quickly crawled under her bed as the man entered her room. She covered her mouth as the man stood next to her bed. He slowly began to walk around it. While Kelsey remained silent under her bed, she felt herself being yanked out from under it. She screamed and kicked as the man dragged her into her living room. After he let her go, she scuttled backwards and leaned against her TV stand, completely terrified. What do you want from me? Kelsey screamed between gaps of crying. The man picked up the package he left for her and slowly began to open it. She sat on the floor crying uncontrollably. The man said, You know, it's rude not to open your gifts. The man slowly pulled a knife out of the package. Kelsey began to hyperventilate as the man approached her with the knife. Please leave me alone, she whispered. Please. The man grabbed her by her hair and slowly moved the knife towards her. Kelsey continued to cry. Right when the man placed the knife against her neck, Bruno lunged at him, snarling. Bruno sank his teeth into the man's arm, causing him to drop the knife as the man grunted as he fought desperately to free himself from Bruno's teeth. Kelsey quickly grabbed the knife and moved away from him. She stood there for a moment before making the ultimate decision. She raised up the knife and plunged it into the man's back. He let out a loud scream as Kelsey continued to plunge the knife into him repeatedly until the man collapsed onto the floor. Bruno let go and went and stood next to Kelsey, still growling. She dropped the knife on the floor as she stared at the man lying dead on the floor. Soon after, red and blue lights came through the window. A massive wave of relief washed over Kelsey. She collapsed onto the floor with Bruno standing over her as the police rushed inside her home. She was later told that her neighbor heard her screaming and called the police. 2 years later, she is still haunted by the events of that fateful Valentine's Day, but nothing saddens her more than the passing of her beloved savior, Bruno. Thank y'all for listening in. I hope y'all enjoyed.